Good morning. I'm Jim Spencer. I am the Executive Director of the Bluefield, West Virginia Economic Development Authority. And one of the programs that we like to offer is training classes that support our local business. Everything we do falls in three categories. Number one, support existing business. Number two, cultivate entrepreneurship and innovation. And number three, attract new industry. And we've had success on all phases of that. And we're proud to have partners. And our partners that are participating today, we have the SBA, Kim and Leo. I'll let them introduce themselves and thank you. They are a tremendous partner to businesses in West Virginia. And also here with us in our room today is Harold Pattison, who's with the West Virginia Small Business Development Center, and he is a business coach. And we've worked on many projects in the about 8 years that I've been here in Bluefield. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kim and Leo. And thank you very much for being part of this. And thank you to Kim and Leo for taking the time to present this information to the businesses in our region.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, everybody. We're happy and grateful for the opportunity to do this presentation. Today, our goal is to give you a solid foundation of what will or can happen during the servicing phase of your COVID-19 EIDL loan, because this is a very specialized process. We not be able to give opinions. That being said, we're going to recap some basic information, tell you how to access your account information, how to contact and when, as well as who to contact, what happens when there are changes to your business, making payments, and what happens if you're default in your COVID-19 loan. COVID EIDL loans are not forgivable loans. Keep that in mind. You have to pay this on a monthly basis. Only the EIDL advance, the monies that we're giving at the very beginning, up to a maximum of $10,000, were funds that were actually a grant. So those you don't have to pay. Every obliger had the right liability for repaying. That means that actual borrower, anyone who agreed to guarantee that loan, or the guarantor, and anybody who agreed to assume liability for repayment, call it the assumptor, has the responsibility for that loan. Talking about the process, well, after your disaster loan was approved and dispersed to you, the loan moved from the disaster loan processing center to regular servicing status. All servicing was being done by two centers, one in Birmingham, Alabama, and the other one in El Paso. And that was for the western states, while the one in Birmingham was for the eastern states. However, the COVID EIDL loans are slowly be transferred to a new COVID EIDL disaster loan servicing center. They will handle COVID EIDL loans. And if you default on the loan, it will move from regular servicing to status of liquidation status. And then the loan will be managed by the National Disaster Loan Resolution Center in Santa Ana, California. When it comes to collateral, you cannot sell or transfer any collateral except for inventory turnover, which will be normal in any business, without the SBA prior written consent. You also need to preserve and maintain the collateral, and part of that includes providing hazard insurance coverage to at least 80% of the insurable value. As a reminder, COVID-19 EIDL loans over $25,000 and up to $500,000 were secured with UCC-1 liens financing statements. Collateral for this loan include the property that you own then and will own thereafter, and cover both tangible and intangible property. For EIDL loans over $500,000, SBA filed a UCC lien 1 and took the best available mortgage on any real estate owned by the business. For more information about what your collateral is, you may want to check your loan authorization and agreement. All COVID EIDL loans over $200,000 require that anybody with at least 20% or more ownership in the business sign a personal guarantee. Next slide. About record keeping, the information here is also straight from the loan agreement you sign. You will need to keep itemized receipts and contracts for all loans funds spent. That shouldn't be a big deal because you're maintaining the same information for your tax records anyway. The loan agreement also asks you to the extent feasible to purchase American-made equipment and products with the proceeds of the EIDL loan, which I personally think it's a great goal. And you need to be prepared to submit your records if SBA asks for them. SBA can also ask to inspect or have all assets appraised. Talking about the new account portal, my SBA portal, let's call it that way. Let's talk about that. And as of today, you can access your account information through my SBA portal, which replaces the Capital Access Financial System, or CAF. Here's a direct URL, which is right there, https://lending.sba.gov. There are some advantages to this new portal. First, you can use the same login credentials that you did in the CAF. You will be able to view the loan details for all SBA loans you have. You can make payments directly into the system and not have to go through Pay.gov. And currently, borrower can only make new one-time payments on my SBA loan portal. However, that will change soon, and you will be able to make recurring payments in my SBA my SBA portal. We will let you know when that happens. Borrowers with recurring payments already set up on Pay.gov should not schedule a one-time payment in my SBA loan portal, because that will result in a duplicate payment. We strongly suggest that you confirm your payment on Pay.gov and ensure you are not accidentally making a duplicate payment. The other advantages is that you can now access your statement and tax forms, and you can send messages to SBA directly through the portal. If you didn't sign for CA or CAF, Capital Access Financial System, because of the complexity, this portal should be easier to do so again. If you already have a CAF account, use that login and password. However, this portal works better using an updated browser on a computer or laptop. Okay, now on a specific account information. For general questions or copies of loan documents to get your, etc., you should reach out the COVID EIDL Contact Center. And you will see the information in this slide. We have found that emails is often faster for general inquiries, though. If you need technical assistance with my SBA, here is the information of that as well. when you go into the SBA, that system will have us assign you an account to either the Birmingham Center or the new COVID EIDL Disaster Loan Servicing Center. If it's at the Birmingham Center, the number is 0429. If it says CESC 7029, that means that you are with the new COVID EIDL Center. All COVID EIDL loans are being transferred to the COVID EIDL Center eventually. Note that the phone number for the COVID Customer Contact Center and Servicing Centers are the same. So you will be asked to choose the help you need. We suggest contacting the Servicing Center using email. It's going to be the faster and best way. If you do email, there is a way to help. Get reply much faster. In the subject line, make sure to include your company name, the loan number, and what servicing actions you want taken. Now I'm going to turn this over to Kimberly.
Thanks, Leo. There are going to be changes to your business. This is a very long-term loan and 30 years. And so we're going to discuss some of those changes, what changes you are going to want to make. Hang on just a second. There we go. Okay. Some simple stuff are name changes, perhaps mergers and structure changes. Now, the thing to remember, the key thing to remember is you need to alert SBA before all of these changes take place. If we're talking just a simple name change, they're going to actually have to amend the note and file an updated UCC, to preserve its claim on the collateral. If it's a business merger that results in a new entity, that new business is going to actually be required to assume the loan. So again, the note's going to be modified and a new UCC filed. However, if the borrowing entity remains the same, that's not going to be required. So, for example, if you've got two companies that merge but continue to operate under companies A's name and federal tax ID, etc., you don't have to worry about that. Just you should inform them before the changeover. Legal structure, we see that quite a bit. If you need to change the legal structure of your business, let's say you want to move from a partnership to an LLC, you're technically closing one business and creating another one. And that new entity, again, must assume the loan. That's why Leo went into great depth to explain what an assumptor is. And once you assume that loan, SBA, again, is going to have to modify that note. And all the obligors are actually required to sign off on this again. So luckily, though, we have been told that the assumption will be granted in these circumstances, if it's just a simple legal change. We're getting a lot of questions about how to get collateral released, because when SBA took a lien, they took what's called a blanket lien. So if you need a specific piece of collateral released, it depends on if you intend for your business to stay open or you want it released so you can sell it and your business is closing. If your business is going to actually stay open, SBA is going to release the collateral if it involves, a routine business transaction, normal business operations, things like you've got an equipment trade-in, a third-party sale, and those can be, without any type of what's called a pay down requirement. You just need to demonstrate or say that the use of the sales proceeds, you're going to invest it back into the company for working capital. Now, in other situations, you can expect to pay down the loan balance by about 25%. If the business is closed and you need that collateral released for the sale of the assets, you've got to pay the entire loan off. And you'll actually need to provide proof of the dissolution of the business, or at least your final tax returns. Now, if you have that collateral attached to your COVID EIDL loan and you need a new loan or an additional loan from a bank or a credit union, SBA can allow you what's called a subordination. That is, SBA can allow itself to be ranked behind another lender on that collateral. And with everything, there's an application for this. COVID EIDL loans are going to be subordinated without any pay down if that new loan is for an SBA loan guarantee 7A504 Express. The business, you are renewing an existing loan or getting a working capital line of credit for, normal business operations. Or if the request is for something like factoring or purchase money security interest when you're going after new machinery and equipment. Otherwise, the approval really will depend on the specifics of your case. Now, if you're going to use a new loan just to expand the business or to enable yourself to take cash out of the business, you will be asked to pay down the loan balance by at least 25%. That's what's considered consideration in this instance. Now, I said there's an application, but you'll also need to submit some other documents like a borrower authorization form. And that actually allows SBA to release your information to your lender. We'll need a commitment letter or an agreement form from your lender and a list of the collateral with the VIN number or the serial number, and then a copy of your hazard insurance. And the application that the service center will send you actually has all these requirements on it. Now, the subordination process has actually been streamlined for the COVID EIDL loans. And it should only take, if everything is equal and you've got all your stuff together, it should only actually take 3 to 5 days. The good thing for you is that when it comes to a subordination, your lender is going to help you with that process. But that's why it's particularly important that you go into that My SBA portal and you know exactly which servicing center services your loan. Again, as Leo said, ultimately they're all going to be in that new COVID EIDL servicing center. But while that process is taking place, you do need to go look and make sure you've got that. Sale of ownership interest is really interesting. If a new business owner is coming on board, that new owner is going to have to assume the loan. And you must contact your service center for an application because, again, you'll need that prior written consent. However, the approval for the new owner to assume the loan, that's actually not automatic. And if the application isn't approved, our understanding is that you'll be asked to repay the entire loan. But honestly, that is on a case-by-case basis. So you'll have to talk to the servicing center, to get more detailed information on that. And if that assumption is approved, and let's say you have a new owner coming in who bought out an old owner, that old owner who maybe have left the company, you can request their release as a guarantor. Now, I haven't seen how it's going to work with the COVID EIDL loans, but when it comes to the traditional economic injury disaster loans that accompany a physical disaster, guarantors actually aren't normally released even when there's a substitute guarantor. Again, we haven't been told if this is the same for COVID EIDL, but we do want you to be prepared for that. If you're going to sell your business outright and you're going to pay off the EIDL loan, this is the simplest thing. You'll just need to contact that servicing center, tell them you want an accurate payoff statement and final payment instructions. That's it. However, if you intend to sell the business and you're not going to be using the proceeds to pay off the EIDL, here again, you're going to have to go back and get SBA's prior written permission to complete that sale. And if you don't, it's considered actually an automatic default on the EIDL loan. Now, we've gotten a lot of these cases as well. What happens when the business owner or any of the obligors, guarantors, whatever, what happens when they die? Number one, alert your service center immediately. You will need to, at some point, supply them a copy of the death certificate and whoever is handling the estate. And in addition to collecting proceeds from any life insurance policy that could have been pledged as collateral, for example, the SBA may need to take legal action against the estate, to protect its ability to collect the balance owed on the loan. And I know that sounds harsh, but this is just a regular lending practice. And two, we are charged with safeguarding taxpayer dollars. Now, if your business is permanently closing, you do need to, I think we said before, immediately alert the service center. Ultimately, Leo told you about the National Disaster Loan Resolution Center. What will happen in turn is that these folks should be contacting you. They told us about a month ago that if you didn't hear from them within a few days, you should go ahead and contact. We actually refer to this as the Santa Ana Center. You should actually contact the Santa Ana Center yourself. I give it a little more than 2 or 3 days, and just make sure that you always have your loan number and that's available. Okay, Leo.
My turn again. Let's talk about making the payments. And let's move to the next slide. There you go. Okay, you had several ways to make the payments of your COVID EIDL loan. First one, you can make a single payment at the My SBA loan portal. If you already sign up, as I mentioned before, for access in the Capital Access Financial System, use the same username and password. If you don't have a CAFS account, you can set a new My SBA account right in there. The second option is you can make a recurring payments at Pay.gov, and that is going to be using Form 1201. You go in there, find the agency, because there are several agencies that use that system, and use in SBA and Small Business Administration, I should have said. You can find the Form 1201 and just follow the instructions in that site. Make sure to use your 10-digit SBA number. That's the way they're going to find your loan. They're not going to find it by the application number. Make sure to use the 10-digit SBA number. The payment due date, the payment amount, and if you have any problems, you can email cls@sba.gov, or, of course, call the center at 833-572-0502, and they work Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also use the online bill pay through your banking account. Okay, the account is your 10-digit SBA loan number, and be sure to use this Portland, Oregon address that is shown here. You can also choose to mail your payment. In the memo field of your check, make sure to insert the 10-digit SBA loan number and send that to the Oregon address as well. If you choose to mail your payment, please do it well before the due date. Keep in mind that it takes about 5 business days to process your payment. If you make extra payments or bulk payments, the system will not automatically advance your next due date. If you want the payment to count toward the next monthly payment, it needs to be made less than 25 days in advance of the payment due date. Only payments made within 25 days of the next due date will advance the next payment date, and that's something that has been happening. You set an overpayment, assuming that it's going to be applied to several months. No, it's going to be applied to interest first, and the remainder is going to be applied to principal in that specific month when it was received. So the next due date you will have to make another payment. Your servicing center can actually manually advance the payment date. But of course, you will have to contact them either through my SBA loan portal, find your servicing center, and ask them to manually advance your payment. To get a current payoff, you have two options. You can contact the COVID EIDL contact center, which I have the information in here, or send an email to the disaster customer service. They can also provide you a copy of the loan agreement for your records if you can find it. You can access your COVID EIDL account in the new My SBA loan portal. And it is suggested that you add 10 days of accrued interest to ensure you will have a zero balance. If you ever paid SBA, SBA of course will refund you that amount. For more information is make a payment to SBA, and there's going to be a link here. So when you receive the presentation, you can click on the link. Temporary release or hardship relief. And it happens if you're having or will be having a problem making your monthly payment, you can apply for a hardship accommodation plan. This plan it's going to allow you to experience or get a payment reduction for a period of 6 months at the beginning. The amount will be that you will have to pay. It's going to be about 10% of the regular monthly payment with $25 per month minimum payment. So it's not going to be 100% or zero deferment, if you will. And how to apply, it depends on the size of your loan. If your loan is up to $200,000, you can go into the My SBA portal and request a hardship accommodation there. Within the My SBA loan portal, click loan summaries. In the toolbar on the loan summary page, look for hardship accommodation plan. And in the bottom right, which is located in the bottom right corner, then click learn more and enroll. Just find the button and push. And if your loan is over $200,000, you will need to contact the COVID-19 EIDL Servicing Center. Please include hardship accommodation in the subject line, and you will be contacted by the loan specialist regarding the requirements. Approved eligible borrower may make reduced payment for 6 months. As I mentioned before, to be eligible, it should be less than 60 days past due. The hardship accommodation can apply retroactively. Details are at the Manage Your EIDL at SBA, the SBA.gov website. However, if your loan amount is over $200,000, please contact the COVID EIDL contact center at 833-853-5638 or by email to disaster customer service at sba.gov. Remember to include the business name, the loan number, and hardship accommodation in the subject line. At some point, you will be contacted by one of the loan specialists regarding requirements for that hardship application. If you're approved, keep in mind that the interest will continue to accrue, which may increase or create a balloon payment due at the end of the loan term. During the hardship accommodation period, you can voluntarily make larger payments. The regular monthly payment amount will resume and be required after the 6 months hardship accommodation period ends. So keep that in mind. And of course, borrowers may be able to renew the hardship accommodation plan if necessary. And once again, I guess I will turn this back to Kimberly.
Thank you, kind sir. Leo makes me do this part because this is the bad part. If you default, a portion of any payments due to you from the federal government can actually be withheld. This includes your tax returns and even a portion, not all, but even a percentage of Social Security payments. You're not going to be eligible for any other federal funding programs. That actually includes SBA loan guarantees and microloans. And even if SBA says it's charged off the loan, that is, it doesn't expect to collect on it, you're still going to be responsible for that payment, because then SBA turns the account over to U.S. Treasury. So how can you default? Well, if you violate any of the terms or conditions of the loan agreement, SBA can actually at that point declare all or any part of the loan immediately due and payable. And the bad part is default on one loan. Let's say you have another SBA loan guarantee. A default on one loan can be considered a default on all the loans. Now, I don't think that happens very often, but that is an option there. SBA can also declare you in default if you don't pay your taxes, if you declare bankruptcy, if there are significant changes in the ownership of the structure without SBA's prior written consent. That's why we say make sure you email them so that you have a written copy. If any obligor dies and SBA is not advised, that's a default. Really, between Leo and I, we've decided that any change in the business that can materially affect your ability to repay, you need to alert the servicing center. So between you and the servicing center, you can come up with a plan. Again, we're not trying to scare you, and we're going into a lot of detail that our colleagues don't, but we just want you to be well prepared. Now, once you go into default, some things can happen. SBA doesn't have to actually send you a notice or a formal demand. And at that point, they can say automatically, we want an entire payment on everything. They have the option of taking possession of the collateral. They can actually dispose of the collateral. And they can pursue all of the obligors, both jointly and individually. That is, the agency can actually pursue you for the entire loan, and then that person or entity has to work it out with the other guarantors to get reimbursed. Now, this is not a complete list. So what we say is look at that loan agreement. All of that is in there. And again, no one's trying to punish you, but this is a loan using public funds, and there are very strict regulations and laws in place to protect those taxpayer dollars. And we often just don't have the ability to make those changes. Now, in the news a lot, we're hearing a lot about identity theft. So we thought we would add this section just to kind of keep you up to date. If someone is listening and you believe a COVID EIDL has been taken out without your permission, you are more than likely, I will say you are a victim of identity theft. But there are some things that you need to do, and you need to do it as soon as possible. One, go to the website identitytheft.gov, and you'll click a button and it says create an identity theft report. Once you have that, you're going to take that and you're going to email that to SBA at the email address on the page. You're going to attach a copy of that identity theft report, a copy of your driver's license, or you can use something else, but it has to be an official state or federal form of identification. And if it were me, I would make sure I do front, back, and in color. And then there's a third piece. It's like an affidavit. You need to complete and sign what's called a declaration of identity theft. We've got the link in here, so when you get the PDFs of the slides, you'll have that there. Now, this form is actually going to ask for your social security number. It's going to ask for how long you've lived at your location and your date of birth. So if you're going to help somebody fill that out, make sure that they've got that. You also have the option to fax it. I don't know that I trust faxes anymore, but that is a possibility. And I've come across a lot of folks who aren't comfortable or don't even have an email address, and their identities were stolen. So you can actually mail this too. Now, unlike the payments that would go to Oregon, Portland, Oregon, this ID theft records are going to go directly to Fort Worth, Texas. And that's where some of the, this is a disaster loan, and that's where some of those offices are. All right, we're at the end. Best practices overall, keep a copy of everything for your records, for identity theft record, and submit it only once. Now, this is not going to be a fast process. It's going to take at least 2 to 4 weeks. And in the meantime, you're still going to get those past due notices, perhaps even calls, because again, it's an automated system. But ultimately, after 2 to 4 weeks, you're actually going to get a final email. Now, some folks have said, wait, the loan didn't go through. I reported it back in 2020 or 2021. And we appreciate that. And it's probably noted, it is noted in the file. But just to make sure we have everything correctly, we still got to follow that process of going to identitytheft.gov, etc. As an aside, if you have someone who is not comfortable on the email, etc., you can actually have them make a local police report. But I've found in speaking with people that can be a little cumbersome, or let's just say it's not a fast process. You should also then, at this point, place a fraud alert on your credit report. If it were me, I would go to annualcreditreport.com. There you are guaranteed at least one free report from each of the 3 credit bureaus. So one recommendation is, you ask for Experian, and then 4 months later you go for TransUnion, and 4 months later you go after the other. There are also a number of resources at that identitytheft.gov page. They've got things like sample letters if you need to dispute things that are on your credit report. Okay, some of the key takeaways. As Leo said, we get this question at least once every couple of weeks, but idle loans must be repaid. If you do have trouble making a payment, contact that servicing center. And remember, you've got to report business ownership changes. You can't dispose of collateral without prior written permission. There are no mailed statements. You really have to go into, you really should go into that My SBA portal to get that. Every obligor is obligated to pay the full amount. A balloon payment actually is possible because of all the deferments that went through, and there are actually serious consequences for the default. So our final thoughts, our final recommendation is to, number one, take that loan agreement and authorization that you signed and read it. I tell people, take out your red pens, take out your blue pens, take a pink highlighter, an orange highlighter, and you go through that thing and take your time. And if anything is going to be a stumbling block to you, just note it and keep that in your head. If you use that My SBA loan portal, it is so much easier to use than that Capital Access financial system that Leo was talking about. And, when you're making the payments, really just decide how you want to. If you want to do the recurring right now, you can do Pay.gov. You can also use, and for people who were having problems with Pay.gov, it may not be intuitive, you can actually use your own accounts, your own business checking accounts online bill payment system. And of course, you can make one-time payments in that My SBA portal. Again, also using that online bill payment. And if you're going to make a one-time payment, you can actually use the mail. Here's just some contact information for our office. You'll see Leo and I are at 304-347-5220. If we're not around and you need an immediate answer, you can actually email that wvinfo@sba.gov. Someone's responsible for answering that throughout the workday, and it's probably the fastest way to get a hold of somebody unless you're contacting Leo or I directly. If you want to, if you've got a couple of minutes, you can actually just let us know how we're doing. Okay, we are ready for, hopefully there's some questions and we're looking forward to them.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim and Leo. So much helpful information. We're just going to go through the list of questions that we have here with you guys. And if anyone is joining us online and would like to throw a question in the chat, please feel free to do that as well. Okay, so first off, someone had asked, I've been making double EIDL payments, but I'm getting letters showing I'm behind. I don't understand what's going on. I should be ahead. What should I do?
Well, let me jump in here, since I was the one who talked about that. If you're making extra payments or bulk payments, the system, as I mentioned before, will not automatically advance the next due date. If you want the payment to count toward the next monthly payment, you need to make that payment at least 25 days. Less than 25 days in advance of the payment of the next payment due date. And that's the only way that it's going to count. You can actually ask the servicing center to manually advance the payment date. And once again, the instruction would be to access your COVID-19 EIDL account through my SBA loan portal, which I mentioned. The link is going to be https://lending.sba.gov. Find the servicing center where it is. It's either in Birmingham or it's in El Paso or at the COVID Center and the COVID EIDL Servicing Center. Contact that servicing center and ask them to manually advance your payment. And by the way, if you set a payment in a recurrent payment, I should have said, in Pay.gov, please note that soon you will need to do that in my SBA loan portals, since everything is going to be transferred over. But we will let you know when that change occurs.
All right. We also had a comment that someone actually thought the EIDL was forgivable.
Well, since Leo handled the tough one, I'll take this one. EIDL is actually short for Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and it simply isn't forgivable. There were some advances, which were grants, but they made very sure that they used if it said EIDL advance, that was a grant. And not everyone was eligible for that. When COVID hit in 2020, they went looking for a framework that was already in place that they could use. And that's what they used, that economic injury disaster loan. And you've probably heard us refer to it as the COVID EIDL. And where they've been able to simplify the regulations, they've done that. But it's just kind of working around the edges. But at the end of the day, this is the way Congress set it up. And again, the best thing you can do for yourself is go through that loan authorization and agreement and read it very, very specifically.
Perfect. We had someone else ask, my identity was stolen in 2020 by someone to apply for an EIDL loan. I reported this to the SBA and the loan didn't go through. However, I'm still getting a bill for $100 from SBA. Do I have to pay this?
No. That $100 actually represents the UCC filing fee that accompany many of all the EIDL loans. However, if you reported the identity theft to SBA prior to February 2nd, 2021, you must follow the identity theft process to guarantee you don't get any past due notices. And make sure that the report doesn't follow you. First, let me talk about the process here. Get an identity theft report at www.identitytheft.gov or your local police department. Email it to idtheftrecords@sba.gov. And basically, you're going to include a copy of identity theft report or local police report, whichever you did, a copy of your photo ID issued by a federal or state agency, and a complete and signed declaration of identity theft. And we can actually get that for you. You can contact your local SBA office and we can get that for you. Make sure, please do not submit this documentation multiple times. It's just going to cause a lot of delays in the process. The typical time for processing ID theft reports, it's about from 2 to 4 weeks. Past due notices and calls will continue until the process is completed. Unfortunately, once SBA has completed the review, you should receive an email with a final determination, which you can keep for your records.
Alrighty, someone is curious, is it possible to mail in my payment instead of email it?
Oh, yeah, if you, obviously, yes, you can mail in the payment. And when you get to PDF of the slides, it will show up in the slides. It gives you the complete address. Just make sure that on your check in the memo field, your lifeblood, everything is identified by that 10-digit SBA loan number. You know, we spent so many months worrying about the application number. It was like 33 dash whatever, but put those to the side. We're not looking at those anymore. We have to look at the actual last loan number. Now, we've had a lot of older folks specifically who go, I just need a paper statement. I've got to have that. I can't deal with these emails. And that's fine. If they're comfortable enough to go into that My SBA loan portal, I think Leo went through this, but I'm not sure. But there's a place where you can actually request that SBA mail you statements so that you always know where you are. Oh, and I think one of us said it, but I'll say it again. It does take that Portland Center at least 5 business days to process payments that are mailed in.
Alrighty, we have another question that states, I made an EIDL payment using Pay.gov and it's not showing as paid.
Well, basically, there is a slight delay between you making the payment using Pay.gov and that payment showing in My SBA loan portal. It's basically 2 different systems, so it's communication between the systems. Soon you will be able to do all this, including single and recurring payments in My SBA loan portal. So that delay shouldn't be a problem.
All right, can you apply for the hardship accommodation more than once? Someone would like to know.
And I'll answer that one because I love to answer this one. Yeah, technically you can. So I'm just going to say yes. And they've got it scheduled out so they know how many times you can ask over the next 2 years. We're not sure this precise number because they keep some stuff hidden. It's a whole different division than Leo and I myself is. But yes, you can get that hardship accommodation more than once.
Okay, can business line of credit debts be paid off in full by idle funds instead of making monthly payments?
Actually, if it is a COVID EIDL, yes, it is possible to pay off at any existing commercial business debt using EIDL funds. That's referred to as prepayment. You cannot pay off though existing federal business debts like the SBA guarantee loan, for example.
Alrighty. Someone else wrote, I'm going after another business loan and it looks like I'll need one for those subordinations. Can my lender take care of that?
Yeah, now Leo has a lot more experience with subordinations, but yeah, that borrow authorization form, that's the thing that's you giving permission to your lender to deal with us on your behalf. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And just a reminder again, anyone on joining us online who would like to ask a question, just throw that in our chat box and we will get to it. But our next question is for single owner self-employed businesses where the business address was the home address, can owners move their residence and location to a different state?
Yes, you can. You just need to contact the COVID EIDL customer contact center and alert them about that change.
Perfect. All right. Next question. Do I have to keep insurance on the collateral used for the COVID EIDL loan?
Yes, and this is one of those very specific things that wasn't immediately clear to folks unless you read that loan authorization and agreement, and that's actually detailed in that agreement. But yeah, you've got to keep. While SBA has a lien on that collateral, you are required to keep hazard insurance on it.
Alrighty. Someone is curious about if they need to report identity theft, how would they know which police department to contact?
Wow, that is a very tough one because we have found that not all departments are either quick or willing to do so. That's why we suggest the easiest to use is reporting it to in the identity.gov system. That will take you less than 30 minutes for sure. You will need to have a social security number, your date of birth to provide them, and how long you have lived at your current residence. IDTF.gov would also do a verification either through email, landline, or mobile phone. So you have that to corroborate who you are. We do recommend signing up for an account instead of making a report as a guest for if you need a copy of that report.
All right. Another question says, does COVID EIDL require balloon payments?
Okay. It's not originally set up that way, but because of COVID, there were a number of months of deferment. And I can't remember at the moment whether it was 30, I think it was actually 36 months of deferment. And if you didn't make any payments during that period, which you didn't have to, that interest continued to accrue. And actually the payments, even though they weren't due, that amount is still out there. So when you go to pay off your loan, or at the end of the term, let's say you wait until the 30 years is over, yeah, that last payment is going to be significantly larger than the monthly payments that you have been making.
Alrighty. Another question, a little bit more specific, says, my brother and I both own 50% of our LLC, but we want to change it so that I own 75% and he owns 25%. However, we have an EIDL loan. This is a change of ownership, but the owners aren't changing and he's not buying me out. Just the percentage of ownership will change because he's not as involved in the business now. Is this considered a change of business that we need to inform the SBA of?
I'll actually take this one.
Sorry.
Well, I can do it. You want to take it or me?
No, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Okay. I've actually come across this more than once, believe it or not. This is very common in LLCs, maybe between families or partners, and LLCs have the ability to do this. Unlike an S corp, they can kind of make changes to the ownership percentages as they go along. Do you need to let SBA know before? Yes, you absolutely need to let them know. However, when you do that, you need to make it very clear that there's no money changing hands, because anytime money changes hands, the automatically somebody's going to be thinking, oh, this is an instance where there's a pay down requirement. You know, we talked about that 25% pay down requirement. So you've got to be really, really, really clear to say, this is all we're doing. You know, and there's no money changing hands. That's the key. No money is changing hands.
All right. Well, if we do not have any other questions that come through, then we will get ready to go ahead and conclude today's class. I am going to share really quickly a quick survey link. Give me just a second. All right. Can you all see that okay? Kim or Leo, is that showing up clearly?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it is.
perfect. So to your left is just a link and a QR code to our internal My Bluefield survey. Just tells us how we did, what classes could benefit you in the future. And then to the right, we have the link and also the QR code that goes directly to our workshop registration page on our website. We are actually hosting another class with Kim and Leo on April 20th. It's going to be called The Positives and Pitfalls of Online Funding for Small Business. So be on the lookout for that registration that will pop in. It will populate on that, our website page. Again, I just want to thank Kim and Leo. Thank you all both so much for being with us today and providing such great information. I know it's so valuable to a lot of our business owners. So thank you so much. And with that, we will conclude today's class.